What's up, everybody? My name is Brent Moreland, and I'm going to be bringing you to the Thursday night edition of the Birdtown Sports Hour for December 4th. I'm going to be flying solo tonight as Evan went to a work party that I bailed out on because I hurt my back training last night, and he had some issues with his car. So, just going to be me tonight. We're going to be talking about some local sports. A lot of things going on in Baltimore sports. Pretty bad couple days for us. Um, It's a shame Evan's not here tonight. We kind of have our new obsession, as do many, as of the serial pop. That's gonna kind of talk about, but we'll be bringing that to you Sunday night when we do our weekend recap. So since it's just me and there's not going to be really any BS, and let's just jump right into it. And we'll start it off tonight with Maryland basketball. All right. So entering the rankings at number 21 this week, Maryland lost to number 7 UVA last night in a pretty pretty disappointing effort. They lost 76 to 65. The Terps were missing some key pieces in seniors, Des Wells and Evan Smotrich. Both are out with injuries. Des has the broken wrist. It's going to be out about a month, hopefully just a month, maybe a little bit longer. I don't know. Smotrich is just recovering from that foot injury, so he missed last night's game. And without those two guys, they just really didn't stand too much of a chance versus a very well coached and a good and tough UVA team. I mean, they're ranked number 7 for a reason. And as much as I hate him, Justin Anderson, that kid can just ball. He will play in the NBA one day. Um, but what we saw last night is that these Maryland freshmen, there's going to be some lumps and pains throughout the year, but these kids are good. A lot of talent. You know, you saw Dion Wiley come out. He didn't start off great, but made some big shots, had a decent game. Melo Trimble, what a stud that guy is. I mean, he had some high expectations entering this season, and he's lived up to every single one of them. I didn't think that he'd be this good this early, but I'm super excited for that. But what you saw last night is that the team defense just really needs to improve, and I think that's something that is a little bit understandable with such a young team. And hopefully, Coach Turgeon can coach him up throughout the year, get that defense improving, and improve the rebounding as well. So, both of those things is where we got kind of crushed last night by UVA. But Terps dropped to 7-1, probably drop out of the rankings. I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's a really good start to the season for this team. 7-1. So far, I don't want to jinx it, but no soul crushing losses to teams that they should beat, which has been Maryland's mo the past couple years. But so we have some upcoming games before. I think what we have five more games before we jump into the Big Ten conference. We'll be opening up at Michigan State, which is kind of scary opener for the Big Ten. But we have games versus Winthrop. I'm sorry, North Carolina Central, USC Upstate, at Oklahoma State, and Oakland. In my opinion, that's at worst case scenario, 11-2 heading into the conference opener. Now, I just don't see this as a type of team to lose to these teams that aren't as good as Maryland. And that game at Oklahoma State is going to be a really tough game as LeBron Nash is just a really good player, and Oklahoma State 7-0 this year. But it's a winnable game. I mean, this Maryland team has a lot of talent, but it'll be a really good test going down to Oklahoma State and playing a road game versus a very good team early in the year before jumping into conference play. I like that scheduling. Go down there, you steal that win. That's a big out of conference win. You go down and lose. It's okay. It's a good experience before jumping into conference play, and probably still be without Des Wells in that game. Um, but so far, I'm very happy with the team. You know, this looks like this could be the first tournament team under Turgeon, and really he needs to get to the tournament this year to kind of quiet that criticism that everybody's been all over him. It's just it really really sucks that Des got hurt. It just can never be easy for Maryland fans. Um, so that's really all I want to talk about Maryland basketball for now. We definitely talking about them a lot more throughout the year. Kind of before moving on, just kind of highlight the heartbreak that was last week in Maryland football. Horrible loss to Rutgers. Really kind of sours the season. Ending up 7-5 instead of 8-4. That's a pretty big difference in record. I mean, 8-4 your first year in the Big Ten is just a really good season. 7-5 is just after blowing a huge lead to Rutgers. It's just very disappointing. Um, I know Randy Edsall's got to be sick about that. As does the whole team. It's inexcusable, inexplainable. but should still go to a pretty decent bowl game. And most people didn't think they'd win more than 4 or 5 games the first year in Big Ten, so still a good showing. Alrighty, let's move on to the Ravens. Ravens have a humongous game this week as they travel to the 7-5 Miami Dolphins. Both teams are 7-5, in which, in my opinion, this is essentially an elimination game in the very crowded AFC wildcard race. Uh, I'll start off with the big news that Haloti Ngata was suspended for the final 4 games of the regular season for what he said it was he took Adderall. I mean, it's just completely inexcusable that you can do this to your team this late in the season. I mean, you saw what's the same thing that Chris Davis did to the Orioles. Just, man, you can't excuse it. It's a big loss for the team. Haloti said they're having a good year. You know, our defense is already limping with the secondary being terrible, and you can't lose your best big guy up front. Frankly, it just really pisses me off that this would happen, especially with a guy like Haloti, who's someone you would think wouldn't let the team down. Um, with that said, I just really don't have a good feeling about this game. You know, Ryan Tannehill, after a slow start and people criticizing him, he's been playing really well recently. For the year, I think he's close to 70% completions. He's got 20 TDs to only 9 picks. Lamar Miller's getting healthy, and with Nada not being in there, will they be able to stop him? I just don't know. Um, our secondary, you saw what Philip Rivers did. I just don't see us winning this game. Dolphins have a top 3 defense in the league. I mean, we do have Justin Forsett, who's playing out of his mind. Joe, who I've been very critical of this year. These types of games are games that Joe can just go down there and just step up and just win us this game. But for prediction wise, I have the Dolphins winning 23-17, and honestly, I think that spells the end of the Ravens playoffs hopes. You can't lose that game last week to San Diego and then going on a tough road game to play in Miami. If the Ravens win this game, they're sitting very pretty. Be sitting at 8-5, looking good. Drop Miami down to 7-6. I hope I'm wrong. I've never hoped to be wrong more in my life, actually, but I just don't think they're gonna be able to take care of business. Without Evan here tonight, can't really get a second opinion. We'll find out what he has to say about the game Sunday night after. All right, so let's get to moving around the NFL. And the game that's actually going on now, Dallas leads Chicago 14-7 just before halftime. This is a game that I thought would have a lot of points, actually a lot more points than has been scored so far, but both quarterbacks aren't playing too well so far, which is kind of understandable as they don't have the best reputation around the league. But Brandon Marshall left the game with an injury, but I'm not going to talk about this one too much. This is a must-win for Dallas. Let's move on to Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's favored by 3.5 at home, and just a humongous game for the AFC North here. Cincy's 8-3-1, Pittsburgh 7-5. I'm not buying Pittsburgh. I think they're a fraud. I think they've been a fraud all year. Those back-to-back 6 touchdown games by Ben. Uh, Fluke to me, in my opinion. And even though I'm really not sold on Andy Dalton, I mean, how could you be? The guy's terrible. But I think since he wins this game, I think it's going to be like a classic AFC North type of game, maybe 24-21 style, just tough fight. And with Cincy winning, since he can win this game, they can pretty much lock up the division because Browns have a tough game. They'll be knocking Cleveland back 2 games behind them. And my prediction of the Ravens losing, if that comes true, be a big lead for Cincy at 9-3, 9-3-1 actually. I'm sorry. Let's move on to another game that features another AFC North team. You got Indianapolis going to Cleveland. Cleveland is 4-point underdogs at home versus Indy. What a week of Johnny football drama this has been. Just Cleveland kind of 7-5 has just kind of turned the season into a little bit of a circus now. Rumoring to bench Brian Hoyer, and I want the Browns to lose, so I was actually hoping they would start Johnny football, but good for Brian Hoyer that he's still starting. He deserves to. He's led the team to 7-5 record this year. He's been pretty terrible lately with only 1 TD to 6 picks in his last 3 games, but he played well in the beginning of the season. And I just truly believe that you cannot go with a rookie in a must-win game versus a division-leading team like the Colts. Just can't do it. The Browns do have a solid secondary, and I think they're going to be able to cause some disruption with Andrew Luck. So I expect Boom Herron who took over the job for Trent Richardson. Trent is just terrible, by the way. To have a very good game versus awful Cleveland rush defense. I expect him to put up big numbers, and I like Cincy to go into Cleveland to win this game. And I think it's going to be close for the most part of the game, but I think Indy will pull away towards the end of the fourth. Um, Next game, we got Houston at Jacksonville. Is a pretty irrelevant game. Jacksonville, and not Jacksonville. Houston, they're not going to make the playoffs. They've shown a lot of improvement from last year, from the number one pick to fighting tough this year, but I just don't see him making the playoffs. If they can get a quarterback on that team, though, they'll be scary going forward. You got Arian Foster returning, though, but some big news for Houston is that Jadeveon Clowney is done for the season. Be getting surgery on that right knee. It's not a good sign for a young guy to be getting surgery on his knee and kind of been banged up all year. He's had some injury problems recently. It'd be fun to watch him and J.J. Watt on the field at the same time, but not going to see that this year. Let's move on to another game. That's another stinker. You got the Giants going to Tennessee. Not much I'm going to say about this game besides Odell Beckham Jr. is just a stud, and he could put up some video game type numbers in this one. Enough said about that one. Don't really care. Another one, we got the Panthers going to the Saints. Surprisingly, I mean, I know Carolina's spiraling out of control right now, but the Saints are 10-point favorites at home. Saints have shown to be vulnerable at home, losing 3 in a row, actually. But they went on the road and shocked everybody by beating Pittsburgh. I mean, it just shows that the NFL makes absolutely no sense. I mean, if you would have told me that Jimmy Graham wouldn't get a single catch versus Pittsburgh and they'd win, I would have called you crazy. I probably would have bet all my life savings and that wouldn't happen. But I think the Saints are going to win. That 10 number might be a little high, even though the Panthers' offensive line is just awful. Cam Newton is not too far away from playing in a wheelchair. He's just banged up. And Kelvin Benjamin's a stud, and Greg Olson's good. But aside from that, I just can't comprehend how the Panthers can keep trotting out Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams as their backfield. I mean, those guys might be decent backups, but they need to get a new feature back in there. Then he gets Cam some weapons and some protection up front if they want to ever stand a chance. But I think Saints will win that game. Another one. I mean, there's some bad games this weekend. I mean, there's a few good ones, but overall, this weekend NFL is kind of a stinker. We got Tampa going to Detroit. It's just a bad team versus a good team. I like Detroit to win this game, kind of keep controlling the playoff hunt in the NFC. Matthew Stafford keep rolling. The over-unders for this one set at 42. I'm liking the over in this game. I think Detroit can at least put up 30, 35 points on their own, and Tampa might be able to put up 10 to 14 with the talent they have at wide receivers, and Josh McCown can just chuck the ball. So I like Detroit in that one. You got St. Louis at Washington. Just another crap game. Man, the Skins, what a mess. I think that if the Raiders weren't in the NFL, the Skins have to be the most embarrassing organization. I have friends that are Skins fans, and when they're this bad, it's just not even really fun to make fun of them because they don't care. I like talking trash to Skins fans, like kind of playful rivalry because they're close to us. I don't really treat it as a true rivalry because we're not division rivals. Who cares? But it's just not fun when they're this much of a mess. Got RG3, who's just one of the biggest busts of all time. And on the other hand, the Rams, these guys, they're just fighting through the injuries. Their defense is getting hot right now. Trey Mason looks good. Sean Hill's actually playing pretty well. Their young receivers appear to be kind of stepping up. I say this, we feel like we say this every year about the Rams. If they could just stay healthy, they might be able to sneak in the playoffs, but not this year. Next game, we got the Jets at the Vikings. Not going to talk about that. Don't care. Vikings are another team I think that could potentially be on the up in the future, but not this year. Who cares? Moving on. All right, so we got Buffalo going to Denver. Denver is 10-point favorites, and the over-under set at 48. I think this is going to be a tougher game for Denver than people think. Buffalo, their defense is just really, really good. I mean, they have Buffalo, Detroit, and I guess Miami right now. Probably the top 3 defenses in the NFL. It's just that defensive front is scary. Mario Williams is a beast. Marcel Darius, C.J. Anderson has been rolling. He's been putting up crazy numbers for them, but I think he's going to be held in check this game. This is going to be a game that Peyton's going to have to win for them, and I think he can. Not I think he can. I know he can. But Buffalo's defense is nasty. I wouldn't be surprised if this game is close. going out into the fourth quarter. I do like the under in this game. I've hit 2 straight unders with Buffalo as my lock of the week. I don't feel confident enough to make this my lock of the week, but I do like the under in this game. All right, moving on to the next one, Kansas City at Arizona. Arizona's 1-point favorites at home. Wow, they're just spiraling out of control right now. 9-3 record looks great, but considering they lost 2 in a row and then just lost at Atlanta, Atlanta's a bad football team. You can't lose that game. I know that Bruce Arians came out and said he could win the Super Bowl with Drew Stanton as his quarterback, but I don't believe it. I guess I thought it at first, but after seeing Drew Stanton and watching him last week, that guy's bad at football. He was not hitting any throws. I mean, he wasn't just missing; he was missing pretty badly. Missing wide open guys. This is I don't know if it's a must win for both teams, but it's pretty damn close. Arizona cannot afford to lose this game, lose 3 in a row, lose confidence. They need to win this game at home versus Kansas City. You know, um, I'm going to pick them to win this game, but I don't feel great about it. This is definitely going to be very interesting for me to see how they're going to bounce back from those back-to-back losses. I still think they're a great team, and it's just such a shame that Carson Palmer got hurt. But you can't win in this league without a good quarterback, and Drew Stanton's proving that he's not a good quarterback. All right, moving on. We got San Fran going to Oakland. This is a good game for San Fran to get the offense rolling versus a horrible Oakland team that just got destroyed by the Rams last week, 52-0. Derek Carr is a nice piece for Oakland, Khalil Mack, but aside from that, that team just needs to be blown up. What a disaster they are. I like San Fran to run through Oakland here. Now we're getting to a couple good games here. We got Seattle going to Philly. This is a huge game for the NFC playoff picture. You got 8-4 Seattle, one of the wild card spots, and 9-3 Philly, who are leading the NFC East. And I honestly don't know what to expect in this game. You got Philly playing at home. They're good at home. Their defense, they're good against the run, but they're not very good against the pass. Seems Seattle can't really throw the ball too well. They can run the ball. You got Philly who can't really run the ball and they can throw the ball. Although LaShawn McCoy's been getting better recently, but Seattle's got a great secondary. Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas. It's just I really can't even make a prediction about this game. I'm definitely very interested and intrigued to watch this game, and it's going to be exciting and fun to watch. That's for sure. If gun to my head, if I had to pick, I I really don't know. I'd maybe go Philly just because they're home, but I wouldn't feel good about it at all. Um, all right, moving on. We got New England going to San Diego. New England is 3.5-point favorites. This is another big game in the AFC. You got San Diego after beating Baltimore. They can kind of control their own destiny, maybe sneak into the playoffs. You got New England going to San Diego. They need to win this game to maintain home field advantage, as they've shown that they're pretty much unbeatable at home. They're kind of like the Packers in that sense. They're not terrible on the road. They're still a very good team on the road, but when it comes down to it, you do not want to go to New England and Foxborough and play them in the playoffs. That's just something you don't want to do. So if they lose this game, they're definitely at the risk of not getting that home field advantage. I think New England's too good of a team to lose 2 in a row. And what I saw last week with San Diego, I saw a team that they have a lot of holes. I know they came back and beat the Ravens, but Ravens secondary is kind of equal to a JV football team right now. I mean, it's just terrible, terrible secondary. Philip Rivers is not going to be able to throw the ball that well versus a pretty good Patriots defense. And then you got Tom Brady, and that offense is rolling and looking good. I like San Diego to win this, or not San Diego. I like New England to win this game. I'm sorry. And the last NFL game of the week, we got Atlanta going to Green Bay. Atlanta is actually catching 13 points, and we got the over/under 56.5. You're going to hear about the over/under later in my locks of the week category. But you got here in this game, you got Atlanta, just terrible, terrible team on the road. Green Bay, basically unbeatable at home, like I said earlier. I like Green Bay to run through Atlanta. I don't think this game is going to be close at all. Not even for a second, actually. Green Bay should crush them. All right, so moving on. This is a humongous week in college football, actually. We got a lot of conference championship games. Like I said earlier, that the NFL games aren't going to be very good. They're going to make up for it on Saturday with college football. This is a big game. This setting up for the college football rankings. So Let's jump right into it. We're going to start off with the Pac-12 championship, and that's actually going to be Friday evening. We have number 7 Arizona playing number 2 Oregon, and surprisingly, Oregon is 14.5 point favorites. That is a big spread for two top 10 teams, but I don't know if I can even argue with it right now. Arizona, they're a good team. They've played a lot of really close games. They've been in a lot of dogfights, and they actually did beat Oregon already this year. They're the only team to defeat Oregon this year. They beat them 31-24 at Oregon, but not to make excuses. Oregon's O-line was banged up for that game, and they're definitely healthy now. I like Oregon to win this game. I don't 14.5. It actually sounds about right. I'm not betting on them covering either way, but I like Oregon to win this game. I think this is finally the year that Oregon doesn't have their classic choke and kind of ruin a good thing and ruin their chances at the national title or getting into the playoffs in this sense. Marcus Mariota, he has a good game this week. Heisman's his. There's nothing else you can really say about that. I think he's going to play good. I think he's going to win the Heisman, and I think Oregon's going to be going into the college football playoffs as one of the top 4 teams. All right, so moving on to the Big 12. Big 12 does not have a championship game, as stupid as that sounds. So we have 2 games that are very much of importance this week in the Big 12. We got Iowa State going to number 3 TCU. TCU is actually favored by 33.5 points, so I mean they're going to pummel them. And then we got a huge game in number 9 Kansas State going to number 6 Baylor. Baylor's favored by 8 in this game, which is actually kind of surprising. Talk about TCU game real quick. I don't see them losing this game. A lot of the sexy pick last week was Texas to beat TCU that Thursday night game at Texas, and TCU just went there and just dominated them from start to finish. TCU is just such a good team right now. They're playing amazing, and I don't. They had their one game this year already versus a subpar team where they struggled, and they ended up beating Kansas. They're at home. I think they're going to absolutely destroy Iowa State. I actually think they're going to cover this 33.5 number, and I think they're going to do it pretty easily. On to the next one. We got Baylor and K-State. I mean, can Bill Snyder, he ruin the dreams of Baylor right now? This is going to be such a good game. You got such a tough Kansas State team, good defense, ball control offense going against a high flying Baylor offense who likes to throw the ball all over the field. They had a tough scare last week versus a pretty awful Texas Tech team, which scared a lot of people, and which is why they're ranked 6th this week. You got Bryce Petty who left that game with a concussion. He's awaiting his concussion test results on Saturday before the game, but I'm willing to bet almost anything that he will play. I mean, they're going to find a way to get that kid on the field in the most important game of the year. And it's going to be so interesting that if Baylor wins this game, will they jump TCU? And I really don't know that they will. I think TCU, in the eyes of the voters right now, I think they're going to stay in that top 4. I think Baylor's going to win this game. I actually want them to win this game just so I can see what the voters are going to do and rank them in the Final 4. I kind of want to see the drama unfold. I don't want to see them fall and um, make it easy on them. So now let's move on to the SEC championship, and you have number 16 Missouri playing number 1 Bama. Bama is 14.5 point favorites. You got the over under at 49. Not many people are giving Missouri a chance in this game, and rightfully so. They're not a very sexy team. They don't have a lot of big names. I mean, the quarterback is very inconsistent, Matty Mock. But one thing about Missouri is they have just a ridiculous defensive line that could cause some serious problems to a Bama offensive line that isn't that great. Get the Blake Sims rattle, and you saw last week when he played against Auburn, he was close to getting pulled in that game. I mean, they had their backup quarterback warming up. He came back though. I mean, all you got to do is just throw the ball in Amari Cooper's direction. That kid's going to go up and get it. And he's just an absolute stud, top 5 pick in the draft for sure this year. So I think it's going to be a close game in the first half. I just think Bama's too good of a team to complete, and they're going to open up in the second half. They're definitely going to get this victory. Although I would definitely like to see Missouri win this game and see what the rankings would be if Missouri beats Bama. Can they leave a SEC champion out of the Final Four? I mean, the best conference. I mean, just for the pure drama sake of things, I want to see Bama lose. I think it would be funny, interesting, but Bama should win this game. Now, on to the 2 most interesting games of the week for me. You got number 11 Georgia Tech playing number 4 Florida State. Florida State, everybody knows they're undefeated. They've been, you know, winning close games all year. They're 4-point favorites in this game. They're playing Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech is a very, very good football team. They haven't been getting a lot of respect all year, but they just beat UGA last week. Their kicker nailed, I think, a 50-yard field goal to send it to overtime, and then they beat Georgia in overtime. Um, they're able to. It's going to be hard for Florida to prepare for this team in 1 week. I mean, they run such a unique and ridiculous offense. It wouldn't surprise me to see them beat them, but I just can't pick against Jameis. I'm not going to pick against Jameis until he finally loses. I mean, he's undefeated as a starter. You know, a lot of people are picking Georgia Tech in this game. I can't blame them because they're a really good team. They have a type of offense that can sneak up on Florida State in a 1 week they with only have 1 week to prepare for it and kind of give them a lot of problems. Florida State really isn't too great versus the run, but I'm just not going to pick against them. They're undefeated. The only team in the country that's undefeated this year, and I want to see them keep winning. As a Maryland fan, I've never really liked Florida State throughout the years, but I think it's ridiculous the amount of disrespect that they're catching from the voters and people across the country for being the only undefeated team. ACC isn't the best conference, but they have some good teams. Okay, and to go undefeated, especially after going undefeated last year, is just so difficult. And for everybody disrespecting them, I think it's a joke. Um, so I like Florida State in that game in a close game. I like James to stay undefeated and go into the Final Four as a undefeated team. So, and lastly, we got the last NCAA football conference title, the Big Ten championship. You got number 13 Wisconsin versus number 5 Ohio State. Ohio State's 4-point favorites. And obviously, the big news in this one is that freshman sensation and Heisman candidate JT Barrett is out with a broken ankle. And you got number 3 quarterback Cardale Jones in. At the beginning of the year, Cardale was number 3. He's been number 2 all year because he lost Braxton Miller. So now they lost Braxton Miller, and now JT Barrett and Cardale Jones is in. I just truthfully can't give a prediction on this game. I have no idea what Cardale is capable of. On one hand, you have Wisconsin. You know what Melvin Gordon's capable of. Ohio State's actually got a pretty good defense, and Melvin's going to get his. He's not going to put up video game type numbers as Ohio State, but I just can't make any predictions because I don't know what Ohio State's going to be able to do on the offensive side of the ball with Cardale Jones at quarterback. But I'm definitely excited for this week's game. It's going to be a great slate all day Saturday. I'm going to be sitting on my fat butt watching these games and just enjoying and watching the chaos because this is going to be a chaotic game. Not every game's going to go down like we expect. It's just same thing every year with college football. Just craziness happens. All right, on to some Baltimore Orioles talk. And what a crappy couple of weeks it's been. So we'll start off with the first news. First news was actually pretty surprising to me that Nelson Cruz, he signed a contract with the Seattle Mariners, 4 years, $58 million. It's actually surprising me because I didn't think those were two big numbers. I thought he actually might get more, and I really felt that the Orioles were going to be able to offer him something like that, but Orioles did not want to give him the 4 years. I'm pretty disappointed with this move right here. Me and Evan and a couple other guys we work with, we were discussing maybe about a month or so ago. We were discussing what we would offer Cruz, what we would offer Markakis to keep him back. I said I'd offer Cruz something about in the 4 to 60 year range, and offer Markakis 4 for 44. I mean, this is something I said a couple months ago. Obviously, don't have it on tape, so I can't go back and make myself look like a genius, even though I am. But it's just pretty disappointing to me that we weren't able to sign Cruz to this deal. I know they don't want to give him the 4 years because he's getting older, but I really think it would have been a good idea to bring back Cruz and give him, 4 years. Okay, he's got at least 2 more solid years, and he might start declining the last 2. But this is our window right here to go ahead and make really a run at the World Series. You bring back Cruz, this offense is just arguably the best in the major leagues, and it's just very disappointing to see him go to Seattle and sign an affordable contract with the Mariners and lose our biggest bet in the offense. And then the news that broke yesterday is news I'm still pretty conflicted about, actually, and that is of Nick Markakis signing with the Atlanta Braves for 4 years and $44 million. On one hand, I like Nick. I've been a fan for years. He's been a great guy, great clubhouse guy. Just never does anything wrong. Plays great defense. Shows up. Always is ready to play. But he's been declining. He's getting older. I can understand them, you know, maybe not wanting to give him this type of money. But at the same time, this is just 4 for 44 is not big numbers. And for a guy that is just so valuable in the clubhouse, I mean, Adam Jones, Zach Britton, they were pretty vocal on Twitter that they were pretty upset about Nick leaving. And I really don't know. This is a pretty split decision for Baltimore fans. A lot of people are really pissed off that Nick left. Not pissed off at Nick for leaving. You can't blame a player for ever taking the money, especially when the Orioles didn't want to give him that fourth year, and that's basically what it came down to. But a lot of people are pissed off that we wouldn't give Nick the fourth year. I kind of agree with them on that sense. And then a lot of people are saying he's very replaceable. He's not worth the $11 million. And I also agree with them in that sense. But then my question for those people is, who do you replace him with? Are you going to get Aoki from the Royals? I mean, is that someone that can replace Nick Markakis? Michael Morris? No, thank you. I mean, he's been rumored as someone we could get to sign. I'd rather have Deaza and Lowe in the outfield than Morse. I mean, that guy, I just don't like him at all. I mean, Matt Kemp. Matt Kemp is a stud, but what are you going to have to give up to get him? And also, you're going to take on that huge contract. If we could do something about getting Kemp and not giving up one of our big time stud prospects, I'd be all over that in a second. But it'd be weird of them wanting to pay Kemp's big salary and not want to offer Markakis or Cruz this extra money. I mean, another name that's been thrown out is Justin Upton. Man, I'd be willing to give up whatever to get that guy. Obviously, I think Kevin Gossman's the only young guy that I wouldn't trade. I'd trade Bundy or Harvey to get Justin Upton. I mean, he's entering the prime of his career. 29 bombs last year. Good defense. I mean, Atlanta's not a very hitter-friendly park either. That's the one name that's rumored around that I would just be head over heels happy with if we were to get him. And last name, what? Colby Rasmus? I just I'm not going to bury Duquette yet in the front office, but god damn, I'm disappointed with them so far. This is a team that could make a run at the Super Bowl this year. Or not Super Bowl, what the fuck am I? Sorry, I'm watching the Cowboys Bears game in the background. Make a run at the World Series this year, and just for them to kind of be sitting idly, letting two of our best players go, two of our key contributors in the division champion team last year. Just very frustrating, but I'm going to reserve judgment, let them try to make moves because we're in the same position we were last year where we sat around all off season. We signed Cruz, we signed Ubaldo, even though was terrible. But, I'm going to give him a little bit of time, but it's fair to say that I'm a little bit worried right now. So we'll see with the Orioles. We'll get Evan back on Sunday night. I know he's got a lot to say about this. Nick Markakis was just his favorite Oriole ever. I even think he kind of has a crush on Markakis, but that's neither here nor there. All right, so last but not least, we have two more little segments to go ahead and on. I'm going to wrap this up, keep this a quick episode. Not a lot of banter going on since it's just me. So we're going to go with our DraftKings portion of the show. I won again last week. No surprise. I beat Evan and improved my record to 4-2 on the show. I mean, I do pretty well with NFL DraftKings. I'm playing a lot of NBA and college basketball too. NBA, I'm very hot and cold. College basketball, I suck. But NFL, I usually do pretty good. I usually win money, and then I blow up throughout the week on college basketball and NBA. So I'll start off with my team, and my team's going to be Ryan Tannehill, quarterback. He's got a great matchup versus a horrible Ravens secondary. Got Joique Bell, Isaiah Crowell, two pretty cheap running backs who could have good games. Got Des Bryant playing tonight, who's having an okay game. Got Charles Johnson for the Vikings, Teddy Bridgewater's favorite target. Got Jarvis Landry, Larry Donnell, Odell Beckham, and Vikings defense. And Evan's team, he has the ginger superstar, Andy Dalton, which is just, yeah. He's got Matt Forte, who's having an okay game tonight. A lot of catches so far. Ryan Matthews, AJ Green, Jarvis Landry, Reggie Wayne, who's 800 years old, Owen Daniels, Kendall Wright, and Niners defense. I don't see how I lose. I'm probably gonna go to 5-2. He sucks at this. I mean, come on. All right, and last but not least, we're gonna talk about our locks of the week. My favorite segment. So year to date so far, we're 13-11. I've been really struggling with my college football picks. I'm 0-3 in college the last 3 weeks, but 3-3 in NFL so far. Actually, 2-2 last week. I lost my college, won my NFL. Evan did the opposite. So year to date, 13-11. I'm 7-5. Evan 6-6. So I'll give you Evan's two picks. Won't really give you any reason behind it because he's not here. These aren't my picks. He has New England -3.5 at San Diego. and Florida State -4 at Georgia Tech as his 2 picks. And my 2 picks are going to be the under 56.5 in Atlanta Green Bay game. Hear me out on this one. I know it on paper it's 2 high flying offenses, but it's going to be a cold game in Green Bay at night. Matt Ryan is dog shit playing outside of that dome. You know, I just don't see this game getting to 56.5. I wouldn't be surprised if it was in the high 40s, maybe sneak into the low 50s, but I'm going to ride the wave of unders in the last couple weeks that I've been picking and go with the under in the Atlanta Green Bay game. And then in college, I'm going to go over a pretty big number. I'm going to go over 69 in Marshall, Louisiana Tech. I mean, Marshall's got that high. Both of these teams scored over 60 points in their own last week. And I see this game possibly breaking into triple digits. It's 2 high flying offenses. Marshall, they lost last week. It's a shame. Undefeated season's gone, but Rakeem Cato, I think, will bounce his team back. I think they're going to win this game. I don't really care if they win this game, but I expect them to get over that 69 number. All right, that's going to be it for the weekend. Thank you guys for listening. Evan will be back Sunday night, to bring some of his viewpoints in the thing, kind of liven this up a little bit, get a little banter. Hopefully this wasn't too bad with me on my own. Didn't sound a little robotic or yeah. All right. So thank you guys for listening. Talk to you Sunday night.